Welcome back. I'm so glad you could join us. My daughter has joined us today, Lydia.
It's good to be here. I heard we're doing something different today.
Yeah, we're not going to actually be cooking um, on this show. We're going to actually be tasting, which is a fun part anyway.
Yeah, always.
We're going to be tasting different pastas, and we're going to also try to see which ones we like better. We're going to try and pick from just normal pastas like made of white flour and semolina, but we're also going to try the healthier versions like wheat, whole grain, and quinoa.
Sounds good.
I'm glad Lydia could join us today. My name is Mary Ann Overton. If this is the first time of you joining our easy, healthy Italian cooking show on YouTube. But today we're not going to actually be cooking. Today we're going to be testing different pastas and trying healthier versions versus just a normal whole wheat pastas and things.
So, Mom, I understand we're going to talk a little bit about our family too.
Yes, because my family is the main roots of why we eat so much Italian food. Actually, my father, this is him, this is Frank, and his family was from Italy, and his grandfather was De Rosa's, and then on his mother's side, and then he was Lavallardi. But my mother is Puerto Rican, so this is kind of like a West Side Story. Italian man marries Spanish. But my mother loved Italian food, and so my father had only one sister. Her name was Sarah, and they all lived in New York. And Sarah actually taught my mother how to prepare Italian food. Now this is a picture of my brother Nelson, and a picture of my mother. This is a picture of me and my sister, Francine.
Hi, Francine, if you're watching.
And then this is a picture of all of us when I was a little girl. And at this time in my life, we ate a lot of Italian, and my mother was a terrific cook. My mother loved being around people, and as Lydia may remember, Mama liked to cook for people, didn't she?
Certainly, always did.
She had a warm heart, and she always had food in her kitchen ready to serve everybody.
So clearly, food has always been important to us and our family, but over time, we've had to adjust the way we eat in order to be a little healthier, right?
Right. Several years ago, I went to the doctor and had my yearly checkup, and my triglycerides were almost at 800. And my family history is really bad when it comes to high cholesterol. In fact, Lydia, she at 18 started having cholesterol problems, and my other daughter that lives in Colorado, same thing. She has to battle cholesterol problems. So we didn't want to give up our eating pasta, so we started having to make adjustments in order to lower my triglycerides and control my cholesterol.
So when did you have to start watching your cholesterol?
Well, in my late 20s, after I'd had my first child, through the blood work, the doctor noticed that my cholesterol high, and I didn't know what cholesterol was, so he said you break your cholesterol down into HDL and LDL. And actually it was my LDL that's bad that was high. And my HDL, which is your good cholesterol that really helps push out your LDL out of your arteries, it was low. So he said, well, exercise and, eat right. You're talking to an Italian person, you love to eat. You don't want to give up your good pastas and things. But I knew I had to. So he told my HDL, my bad cholesterol, was like close to 200, and my LDL was like 80s and 90s. So I had to really work at getting it lower, because your HDL has to be 60 milligrams per deciliter or lower, and then your LDL needs to stay around 40 to 59 milligrams per deciliter. So your diet will help improve that.
And then you also mentioned triglycerides are also something else to watch. Tell us about that.
Right. A few years later after I had you, then I had been doing a little exercise and eating a little healthy, reading my labels. But you know, after you get 2 kids, you kind of lose touch with reality, and you just don't worry about things, and you just go on with life. Well, I started eating whatever. And my mother's a good cook, like I said, and I just eat whatever she had cooked. And didn't think about it. Then I found out my triglycerides were almost 800. And doctor said, again, you're going to have to really get serious, you know, because I was only in my late 30s by then, 40s, early 40s. And so I said, okay. So my husband and I, he went out, he got me a bicycle. And then I started really reading labels and studying things to see what would lower my triglycerides. And your triglycerides are really just fats. And we all need some type of fat in our system. That's where we get our burst of energy to do things. But what happens is when you don't burn up all the calories that you're taking in from your foods, then your reserved calories are going to go back into your system and be stored in your fat molecules in your blood, and it's going to build up and then make your triglycerides high, which will make your heart have to work harder. It'll raise your blood pressure. And so I started watching my fats, started eating things like avocados, because those are good fats, walnuts, chicken with no skin. No more fried chicken unless you bake it in the oven. You can still get a crispy touch without the skin. You choose fish like salmon instead of red meats. And my favorite we're going to talk about is quinoa products. This is a perfect protein. Quinoa. It's pronounced quinoa. A lot of people pronounce it a lot of different ways, but quinoa is a relative of spinach and beets, and it's known as the mother of grains by the Incas. It's gluten-free, and it's hyperallergenic for adults and children. It's rich in protein and B vitamins, so it's a perfect protein, and I'm so thankful because it has really become easy to shop for quinoa products nowadays. At first it wasn't, but these last few years you can almost find anything made with quinoa. Now, one thing about when you go to the grocery store, there's a lot of pastas, a lot of different pastas. The main pasta out there, and it's cheap, and a lot of people buy it, is the white pasta. It's made with refined flour, and refined flour is a no-no because it has removed all the bran and the germ from the flour. It congests your arteries. It slows down your digestion, which makes you feel bloated. It makes your metabolism sluggish, which makes you gain weight. It causes headaches and weight gain, and you just feel bad after eating it. Okay, so it's just a regular flour thin spaghetti. It's just regular thin white flour spaghetti. This is angel hair spaghetti. You can use it like with shrimp and seafood platters, but it's very, very thin, and I don't prefer it because I want mine just a little bit thicker than just angel hair.
Okay. And then also another white pasta that's really common is fettuccine, and people like to use it and with your Alfredo sauces and things like that. And this little star-shaped pasta is actually a pastina, a traditional pastina. Many others can actually be classified as pastina because anything smaller than 1/4 of an inch technically is. Also, orzo would be something similar, but this is a traditional pastina.
And it's really good in stews or soups. Also, I have my whole grain that I introduced the other day. Just a whole wheat or whole grain. That's the kind that you want to look for that is actually good for you. Those grains, you don't want to take the grain out of your flour ever. You want that in your flour. So we pick whole grain or whole wheat pasta. And now another pasta. This one is shells. I like shells with just Parmesan cheese. You can use it in soups and things like that. But this one is quinoa pasta. So you don't have to feel guilty eating this because it is made with quinoa. So eat happily.
And then also going into another organic pasta is fusilli. It's the twisty spiral looking type pasta. Alma's makes this. It's an Italian whole wheat semolina. And then next is also something we tend to call bow tie pasta, but actually traditionally an Italian pasta called farfalle. It's the traditional farfalle consists of an Italian coarse-grained semolina flour.
Yeah. It's thicker. Even when you cook it, it's going to almost feel firm. You're going to cook it longer. It's like 12 minutes to cook the farfalle because it's so thick. But it's going to taste, to me, it tastes al dente even though you cooked it 12 minutes.
And a fun fact is actually farfalle is Italian for butterfly.
And I have over here my favorite noodle that I cannot eat no more because you cannot find it in anything but with white flour. It's my vermicelli. I love my vermicelli. It's perfect. It's not thin like angel hair, and it's not as thick as thin spaghetti. It's in between, and it's the perfect size for me. I love it and can't have it. But I love vermicelli. Now this also comes in thin spaghetti made with quinoa. And I love it. And I make quinoa every time for my other daughter that comes from Colorado because she has celiac disease. So she cannot tolerate anything made with flour because she is actually allergic to a protein in flour.
So what is the bad thing about gluten? Why is it exactly she can't have it?
Well, it's a protein in gluten. Gluten is made from glutenine and gliadin. And gliadin is a protein that is bad for you. It hurts people. It hurts the intestines. It hurts their stomach. But it's actually a protein also that causes doughs to come together to form a ball so you can have that lacticity in the dough to make a pie or something. So it all fights against each other, and then a person with gluten allergies, they can't take it because it even causes anxiety in them. Besides all the stomach pain, it causes anemia. It causes numbness. So it's a battle. It's a vicious cycle. So we're thankful that they came up with quinoa flour, coconut flour for these sensitive people to the wheat and the protein in the wheat.
So let's talk about the quinoa. You show us what it looks like before and after and tell us a little bit about it.
And my husband refers to it as a bird seed. It's so tiny that you can't see it when I hold it up, but it does look like a little bird seed in raw condition, and it's raw on stage right here before it's cooked or made into a flour to make pasta. But this is cooked. And why do we pick quinoa instead of rice? Because rice and potatoes are high in carbohydrate. What is a carbohydrate? It is carbon plus hydrogen plus oxygen, and mixed together it makes carbohydrates. We need carbohydrates. Why? Because we want to ride a bike, we want to go running, we need that for energy. So how do we get a good simple carbohydrates? Honey, table sugar, even though a lot of it's not good for you, it will give you some energy. The complex carbohydrates like breads and pasta, rice and potatoes, you want to stay away from them or pick healthier choices. And the way to pick a healthier flour or bread is to look for those made with quinoa. So now we're going to come to the fun part where we get to actually try some healthier versions to pasta.
When do you know when your pasta is perfectly done?
Well, there's 3 different stages of cooking pasta. The first one is al dente, which is Italian for the tooth. It's where the pasta's chewy, but it's firm. And it holds its shape really well, but I don't like al dente because it's just almost toward the raw side, so to speak. I like the firm, that's in the middle. It's still chewy, you know. You still have to, you can, when you bite, you can just, you've got to really chew it, but it's not really toward that raw side. Then you got the tender. That's leading toward the mushy side. And I don't like that at all. So I like the middle, which would be firm. And we're going to try the whole grain. And versus the quinoa. Yummy, yummy. You want some Parmesan?
Sure.
Now she grew up. She grew up eating whole wheat, so I know she likes it.
We did have to get used to it. I remember when we started trying whole wheat. There is a difference in the taste and the texture, but once you got used to it, you start realizing you're not nearly as bloated and your stomach doesn't hurt hours after eating it, and you really begin to enjoy it. And then I like the flavor now.
Yeah, I don't notice a difference except that flat spaghetti that's cooked with regular white flour or regular white semolina. It's so doughy to me now. I don't know. And I guess that's what people like. It reminds you of bread or something. This is a little, whole wheat is more firmer. Next, we're going to try the one made with the quinoa. And now we're going to try the quinoa.
I like it. It's really good.
Again, I don't really notice a difference. You don't have that whole wheat fibrous taste. It but to me, I don't notice it. But I love quinoa, and like I said, when my other daughter's here, we cook with a lot of quinoa products. Okay, so with the whole wheat or the quinoa, which one did you like better?
Honestly, the taste is very similar. The only thing is visually, I would say the gluten-free tends to look a little more like regular white pasta, but they both have a satisfying, firm texture, so they both taste pretty well.
Yeah. I don't really have a favorite because, like I said, I've really adapted over 10 years now eating whole grain products, so I like it. I love quinoa. Maybe I like quinoa better because I'm thinking, ooh, protein. I'm getting more perfect protein. So it just depends, I guess, on your preference. Now we're going to try the shells made with the quinoa and the fusilli with the whole wheat. Okay. So now we got the quinoa shells and the fusilli whole wheat. Let's try it.
I like the fusilli.
Yeah.
And I like the shells. They tend to stick together pretty bad. So, I mean, the texture is pretty okay. And the fusilli, I like the firm texture. It tends to be a little firmer. But I think they would both do really well in many sauces.
Yeah. I think we cooked the spiral fusilli. I think we cooked it, let's see, it said 10 minutes, but I think we cooked it about 8 minutes. And the quinoa, the shells said cook 6 to 9 minutes, but we winded up cooking it about 10 minutes, a little longer. And I still think they could have cooked a little longer. So maybe these take a little longer to cook than the Fusilli. But then again, I love to know I'm eating a perfect protein. So I would probably go with the quinoa. Well, Lydia's plate's clean, so I think she liked it. And we really enjoyed having you, Lydia. I'm glad you was able to join us here on Easy Italian Cooking. And it's always healthy, trying to be healthy here, cooking Italian food. And we're really glad you could come. And we hope you like the show. Continue to watch us on YouTube. If you like us, hit like and subscribe if you can. And next time we're going to be making some meatballs. So please join us. And we're going to make a real Italian marinara sauce to go with our meatballs. And please make sure you comment on our YouTube channel too. Let us know.